All right, everyone. So welcome to the Spotlight interview. Maureen, are you there, or can you hear me coming through clearly, Maureen?
Can you hear me okay, Corey?
I can hear you now. Yes, we wanted to make sure you were ready to go before I started to ask you questions, and it was only going into a black void. So we're good to go. So
No
thanks for
problem.
joining us. Before we start, everyone, for those of you that are just joining us for our Spotlight interview with Maureen, who's going to tell you a little bit more about herself, I'm just going to turn over to Jenna Flores, my partner in crime here at CSPN, just to get us ready for the interview. Some of the things that you want to watch out for and how you can be engaged in it to, of course, throw out your thoughts and questions to Maureen and myself to get what you need. So before I get into the interview, I'm going to turn it over to Jenna to start the conversation.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Corey. Hello and welcome again, everyone. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to join us for our Spotlight interview with Maureen. And we'll be discussing a great topic today, the importance of employee experience in positively shaping our teams. Also, throughout the presentation, we'll be managing the chat functionality. So we do encourage you to enter your questions and comments in the chat box found at the bottom of the screen, and we'll try our best to answer them live. We'll also have a 10-minute question and answer segment at the end of the interview, just so we can answer more in-depth questions from the audience as well. And for those of you who are new to CSPN, we are passionate about providing development, consulting, and networking opportunities to support organizations in delivering exceptional experiences to both customers and employees. And to introduce our subject matter expert today, Maureen, she is currently the Regional Director of Operations at ParaMed. She is knowledgeable and highly experienced professional, having held senior roles in the wire and cable industry, energy industry, insurance industry, and in consulting practices. She has worked with dozens of organizations on organizational assessments, business transformation strategies, operational strategic planning, and customer experience optimization. And facilitating our interview today will, of course, be Corey Atkinson, CSPN's VP of Learning and Development. And Corey has a wealth of experience in leadership, management, client service, business development, and he also focuses on supporting others to realize their objectives ahead of projected target dates. Through his natural ability to connect, Corey proposes countless ways to acquire and use skills to help organizations grow, evolve, and ultimately excel. And on that note, I will pass it over to Corey to begin our
Thank you, Jenna. Thank you so much. And Maureen, are you there? Is your camera working for us? We'd love to see if you can get, we can see your face. If not, no worries.
Hopefully I can get it to work for us.
There you go. Give Maureen a moment while she's getting set up there. So everyone.
Does that work?
I don't see you yet. Let's give Maureen a moment, everybody.
Well, apparently I'm not good at technology. It says that my camera is enabled, so I do apologize, Corey, if it's not coming through on the Zoom.
No problem. Jenna, do we have to do anything for Maureen on our side just to, because she is an attendee?
I'm looking here. I can't seem to access your camera on my end either.
Just talk amongst yourselves, everybody. We'll be with you in a second.
Okay. Maureen, do you see a start video icon on the bottom ribbon of your screen?
No, it doesn't have. It has my mute, chat, raise hand, question and answer. So into my options and turn it on though, Jenna.
Okay, no problem. I will see if I can figure that out on my end, but I will pass it over to Corey if we want to start our session today, and we'll see if we can troubleshoot along.
Perfect. Good idea. Good idea. So everyone, we want to just get into the flow of what we're going to be talking about today, and then I'm going to really pull Maureen into it to tell us a little bit more about herself. But first and foremost, everyone, I hope you've been staying safe in these crazy times. You were taking care of yourself, your family, obviously, friends, obviously, and of course, the people that are within your organizations. And of course, this is, a big part of, the employee experience. And how do we positively shape our teams in these crazy times, right? And so over the next 40 minutes or so with Maureen is we're really going to just pick her brain as somebody who's led teams, is leading the team that's at the front line of what we're going through right now, and get her insights also. How does that impact, the experience for both employees and customers? So before we get into any of that stuff, I just want to say, Maureen, thank you so much for joining us. We'll get you on video in a moment, but no worries. But how are you doing today, Maureen? Thank you for joining us.
Oh, I'm great, Corey, and thank you so much for having me as part of this CSPN series. I'm really pleased to be involved. And as you know, employee engagement and customer experience are two areas of passion for me. So thanks, Corey.
No problem, my pleasure. So that's a great segue for us. So why don't we get into this, Maureen, and tell the group. I know you and I have known each other for a little while, and definitely we're going to do a few things in the future, but Maureen, why don't you give the audience a little bit more background as to how did you get to where you are today at ParaMed? Give us a little background on what got you there.
Yeah, absolutely. As you mentioned, Corey, I've worked in a number of industries. I started out my career in utilities. I did some energy consulting. I also worked in health and dental benefits and in the wire and cable manufacturing. But as I started to assess where I really wanted to take my career, I felt that the healthcare industry, and this was prior to the pandemic, was really an industry that I felt passionate about. Patient experience, client experience is of utmost importance in the healthcare industry, and certainly at ParaMed. And as you mentioned, I have focused my career in those areas. Yeah. So I'm really glad to be the regional director for Erie St. Clair in London. And I'll also mention I am a certified customer experience professional and change management professional as well. And we're on an exciting journey of transformation at ParaMed, and I'm happy to be part of it.
Thank you very much. So you obviously, you and I, are cut from the same cloth. We love the world of the customer experience, obviously employee experience. So why don't we just get into it, Maureen? Based on what you've been seeing as a trend, as where things are going, I got the question here. What are your thoughts on the importance of and the value of focusing on engagement and staff morale? I think it's pretty obvious right now with these critical times, but we'll get back to normal eventually, and sometimes we forget these things. So what have you seen, and what would you share with the audience when it comes to the value and the importance of the employee engagement or the employee role?
Yeah, thanks, Corey. And I think we all know that engaged employees will go above and beyond. Engaged employees are going to deliver better customer experiences, and engaged employees are going to deliver improved operational efficiency. So in my opinion, employee engagement really should be a key area of focus for all businesses. Regardless of the industry that you're in, finding ways to gather, analyze, and ultimately act on employee feedback is really important. And anytime you're trying to develop a strategy or a project or a new product, it's my firm belief that having employee feedback is just as important as having customer feedback.
Yeah.
And especially when you're looking at business transformation, right? If you truly understand your employees and the morale of the team, it's going to let you better predict your business outcomes. And it's also going to allow you to understand the rate of change that your department, maybe your larger division and your overall company, that pace of change is really important to understand that, engage that appropriately.
Yeah, it makes sense. So I'm going to put you on the spot on this one here a little bit. This is not a new topic in the world of leadership and business, as you well know, Maureen. Why do you think, though, organizations fall short? Because, depending on if you really get behind it, maybe you're probably doing it in your world. But I know you've been in situations where we say it's important, it's a value on the wall, it's in our business plan, but sometimes it doesn't actually come to fruition. And when you do exit interviews, people are saying, my leader didn't care about me. My manager was just focused on him or herself. Why do you think we miss this, although it's been something that's been important for so long?
Yeah, so, I think there's a couple of reasons for that. I think number one, sometimes people take the easy path, Corey. It's a lot easier to just develop an idea with a small team and implement it. Mm-hmm. It takes a lot more time to gather both employee and customer feedback. Yeah. So I think that's part of it. It's that speed, right? Yeah. So people just want to get stuff done. Yeah. And I think it's also, a lot of times with my team or teams that I've consulted with, I'll say to them, you got to check your ego at the door. Mm-hmm. Because sometimes what you hear isn't what you want to hear. Sometimes you're not on track. Sometimes you're not meeting the needs of the employees. So I really think it is about that twofold of the speed, and then not really, a lot of people aren't comfortable with feedback, and getting that feedback from employees is so valuable. If you can, like I said, check your ego at the door, sit back and just listen, that solution is going to be so much better. But I don't know that culturally all businesses are there.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. So the ego, so we get in the way of ourselves as leaders, and then the fact that there's so many other quick things that I can do. I can sell more. I can minimize the complaints. But for me to take feedback takes so much more time that I'm going to focus on my quick wins. I guess that's a mindset shift. Then I think a lot of us as leaders have to do.
Yeah, and I think, more mature organizations will always ensure that whether it's a new product, a new service, a change to a product or service, that they are adequately gathering employee feedback. And I think if you think about some of the brands that are leaders in that, in a variety of industries, they have higher sales, higher engaged employees, better reviews online. And those mature organizations do typically pilot changes as well, and gather both client or customer feedback along with employee feedback before a change is rolled out company-wide. And again, that takes more time, but you get a better end product.
Yeah, that's a good point. So I want to go one step further then, because you made two comments here. You talked about sort of the nature of business. We always want to sort of get the numbers right away. I know you've seen that in your own world, Maureen. But then you talked about the ego thing at the door, and I do a lot of, Maureen, I do a lot in the world of leadership, and I'm writing and so forth. But how did you learn that? And what advice could you pass on to some of our listeners? Because I'm looking at some of the people who join us. I know that they're leaders of teams, and they're either are shaking their head with you, or they might have to step back and go, is my ego getting in the way? What can a leader do to get out of their way so they can be open to that type of feedback? Because that's coaching, and you need feedback to be able to change. So how can leaders get out of their own way?
Yeah, well, I think whether you really study change management or you read a few articles on change management, you're going to hear that in pretty much every model out there. And the industries I've worked in, Corey, the companies I've worked for, when you see ahead of you a vision, you see a strategy in front of you, and you know that it's not insurmountable, but you need to have the masses behind you, and you start to think about change management and educate yourself on change management. It is one of those core elements that you need to have the masses behind you on any change that you're going to make. So what I would say to folks, early in my career, I learned that in my first customer experience role. I was developing a customer experience strategy for Union Gas. It was the first time that we were doing something like that. And it was changing people's mindset from thinking of their customers as ratepayers to actually thinking about them as customers who were consuming their product. So I knew that was going to be a massive change, and having employees behind the strategy, having them contribute, from their POV, from their point of view, was really important. So I think it's just that general understanding and education that you're going to get, a lot further, a lot faster if you have folks on board with the change. You're not going to be pushing that boulder uphill for the entire strategy deployment.
Mm-hmm. I like that. So the context there, everyone, is that the nature of leadership is to, of course, drive change. And what Maureen is saying is 101. Step one is get your people to be willing to come with you, which means you need to get feedback. You need to get out of your way. You actually remind me, Maureen, I don't know if you read it. Probably I'm dating myself here, maybe 20 years old. Jim Collins, Good to Great.
Yes, years ago, absolutely.
Right. And he says if you want to turn a ship of 10,000 people, you got to get 2,500 to 3,000 people on board before you make change. So that's good. That's good advice. Is definitely think about it in terms of, especially now, Maureen, with what does our normal look like, and of course safety and so forth. We're going to have to get people to change. We've got to listen to them and find out what they need. So I think that's a great insight. So let's keep on going. So you might have dabbled into this a little bit here, and I think you've talked about it, but I will get you to maybe hone in on just this question here. So based on your experience where you are right now, especially ParaMed being frontline and working with, for those of you that aren't aware of what Maureen does at ParaMed, but really leads a group of office team people that are doing scheduling and problem solving and so forth, as well as the people that are out in people's homes in the community taking care of them. And now, of course, with COVID, from your experience, Maureen, how has employee engagement impacted the customer experience? Maybe we go pre-COVID, and if you want to share anything with what you've learned over the past couple of months, we'd love to hear that. So how does employee engagement impact the employee experience? And then what have you noticed over these past couple of months?
Yeah. So, I think all of us know in general fact that engaged employees are going to deliver better business results. And I think all of us have seen how that really engaged employee is going to go above and beyond. They're going to help out. They're going to be proactive. Mm-hmm. And if you compare and contrast that to a disengaged employee, the struggles that you've had as a leader with disengaged employees. So, mm-hmm. I would say that if you're a business that wants to improve your business results, you should start focusing on your employees. And it's not just gathering feedback and not actioning it or making it feel like it's lip service. You really need to intentionally focus on improving the experience by taking in all the feedback from employees about, how easy or difficult are you making it to do their job? How easy or difficult are you making it for them to serve your customers? And if you're looking at it from that lens of your employees and coupling that with the lens of your customers, you're going to see the gaps in your organization. One of the tools, pre-COVID and during COVID that I've always liked to use, Corey, and I think CSPN is also a supporter of this, is tools like journey mapping. So if you can break down your processes in a journey map and really look at the employee experience and the customer experience, it's going to be a very useful exercise. You can journey map that current state and allow you as a group with different people in the room identify the pain points, and not just the pain points of the customers, but the pain points of the employees. And then if you use that information to intentionally design your experiences for that future state by removing all of those pain points, you're going to be able to develop action plans that are meaningful. And through that gap analysis, you're going to be very easily able to pinpoint, prioritize changes that need to happen, whether that's in the people and training side of your business, the process side of your business, the policies, or the technology. But if you do it in that methodical manner and you're very organized, I think you're going to get to much quicker results. So that's something that, pre-COVID, I was a big fan of. Post-COVID or during COVID, I'm also a big fan of. Yeah. And I think now more than ever, people realize the way we've been doing things isn't going to last. We need to change the way we're doing things in our personal lives and in our business lives.
100%. So definitely, we definitely are big supporters of the map and the journey mapping. You're obviously talking about employee mapping, which is out there, and somebody like you and I would know that, but not everyone thinks about it. And that's everything, right, Maureen, from the onboarding experience, the first couple of months, what's it like for coaching. So there are some things for us to look at. What have you've obviously have a lot of experience from union gas all the way to where you are now in healthcare. Maureen, have you noticed any trends in what employees are looking for to drive engagement? And I know you said things change, but have you noticed anything that seems to be a constant? Or, are there any things that you think we should be looking out for? And to give you what I mean by that, you've seen it, I've seen it, the Google and what they do with their offices and how comfortable they are and all these tech companies. But I know you're doing well at ParaMed, but I don't know if you have Google dollars, Maureen. So what are some things that a leader that's listening to you today might want to be looking for that can sort of be low-hanging fruit to drive engagement? Anything now or what you might think about in the future that you've seen?
Yeah, so first I'll kind of start with saying, what all of us know, things are changing, and simply telling people to show up to work and do their job that maybe worked 20, 30 years ago, It doesn't work now, right?
No, it doesn't.
You've got the gig economy. You've got people who are coming out of school prepared to change their job 6 or 7 times. Yeah, and you think about the young grads out of school, they want their job and their social life to kind of meld, and we've all very quickly had to adapt to work from home. So I think, of course, that's a trend that everybody's talking about. But I think there's also, and maybe this is partly because of COVID, and it's going to kind of tip my hand to some of the things we've done at ParaMed, but I think genuine gratitude for your employees and the work they do. No longer just about coming into work and getting a paycheck, right? People want to feel good about the job and the contribution they're making. So, and if you'd like, I can go a little bit further into some of the things that we've done as it relates to, intentional gratitude to our teams during COVID, if you'd like, Corey.
Well, yeah, I think our next question is, so I think you said two things there. It's obviously the change of the demographics has changed in terms of our generations. You talked about gratitude. I think my next question was a little bit about exactly that. What strategies have you used through these difficult times? So go ahead, expand on gratitude and some other things that you would like to share that you've seen work that we could also adopt in our business.
Yeah, absolutely. So, many industries are difficult, but I would say healthcare is one of the most difficult industries that I've worked in.
Yes.
Outside of a pandemic, then you layer in a pandemic and it becomes an exceptionally hard industry, and it's really emotionally draining for all of our team members. And healthcare it's a people business, right? It's not a product business. It is a people business.
That's right.
So when you think about it from that perspective, some of the things that we've been able to do in my districts really focused on making sure our employees did feel valued, and we were demonstrating that gratitude, Corey. Okay. So early when the pandemic started to unfold, we knew that people were working longer hours. The clients they were seeing were more difficult. And so we did something very simple, very low cost. It was literally a call campaign. So each of our supervisors have, somewhere between 30 to 50 staff, and they actually book time in their calendars to make a personal call to every one of the staff members. Wow. There was no intent of asking questions, getting information, asking about paperwork. It was simply them calling, checking in on them, seeing if they needed anything, and making sure they were okay, and acknowledging that the work they were doing was really important and really hard. So, when you sit back and think about it as a leader, you go, yeah, well, that's no big deal. You should be checking in with your employees. But when you think about it, a lot of times when you're checking in with your employees, you have an agenda. You're looking at metrics. You're asking about paperwork. You're following up on something. Or it's disciplinary, right? Yeah. This was simply, let's have a conversation. What can I help you with? Yeah. So that was really well received. So we kind of said, we talked to the supervisors and the managers and said, okay, how can we continue this, what we were then coining as a gratitude campaign? Nice. So a couple weeks later, we took all 500 employees in the Windsor district and split them up between the leadership team. So each of us had maybe 20 or 30 staff members, none of which directly reported to the folks, and they wrote personal emails to them. Wow. So it wasn't copy and paste. It wasn't dear valued employee. It wasn't on letterhead. It was, some were longer than others, just reaching out, checking in on them. Do you need anything? And showing that gratitude. And I thought we got a really good response from the phone campaign, Corey, but this email campaign, there were supervisors that came to me with tears in their eyes saying, I just had somebody who'd worked here 20 years, said they'd never got such a heartfelt message. And this work is really hard. So those are ways that, any organization, and it sounds so simple, but it takes a little bit to choreograph it and actually get it done. But that demonstrated gratitude was very much appreciated by the team. We also did a couple other things. So obviously in the midst of COVID, our team members needed to have increased volumes of personal protective equipment, PPE, to do their jobs. So our standard process had been folks would come into the office and they would pick up the PPE they needed on a weekly or maybe twice monthly basis. Well, instead of having them come into the office, we deployed the supervisors to the field to some PPE depots so that the team members would know where to meet the supervisor and get the products they needed. So in a lot of cases, this avoided a 20 or 30-minute drive into the office. And the supervisors were taking the time to meet the employees where they were doing their work in the community. And in addition to that, small things, they took chocolate bars, they took cold drinks, they took other snacks for the employees as they were picking up their PPE. So when you really think about employee engagement, it's about ease of doing business, right? You want it to be easy for your employees to do their job and easy for them to interact with your clients or customers. So again, this took the supervisors out of the office. It meant that they had to change their schedules, have less meetings, but the value in that was immense. And it actually was an idea that ended up spreading right across our organization. So most districts are doing that to help the employees out in the field.
Wow, very impressive, Maureen. Really, kudos to you. I love it. That's why I made the comment earlier about Google and days off and all that stuff. But sometimes it's small little, well, you might even say, Maureen, just small little intentional acts of kindness, and like, I'm going to put myself in that person's shoes. So I think that's pretty powerful. So you did two things. You did the gratitude campaign. So keep that in mind. I always tell when I do coaching sessions, Maureen, tell your people thank you, but be specific, obviously, with what you're thanking them for. The personal emails, I can imagine that must have taken a little time, but now they have it in black and white in their email box. They can print it off. So I think that's huge. And then going out of your way with the PPE rollout, I think that's amazing. And you could only imagine, Maureen. I know you weren't thinking of that, and your team isn't thinking of that, but think about like how much you've invested now in your people when times are tough. Yep. They'll remember that when things get better.
Oh, absolutely. And, we also celebrated Nurses Week and PSW Day by meeting the folks out in the field and giving them plants. Yeah. But we actually took the gratitude one step further for that. And we did, again, might sound old fashioned, but I don't know if you're like me, everything's electronic. I never get any mail. We actually did handwritten cards to all of our team members that were signed by all of the supervisory team. Yeah. And instead of handing those out at work or sending them in our office, we actually mailed them out to all of their homes so that when they got home at the end of the day after, hard work, they could get that message of thanks during Nurses Week and PSW Day as well at their home. So we've done a number of things to recognize, show kudos, share positive feedback that we're getting. And like you said, those small things amazingly do make a very big difference.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive too. Even when you, if you have somebody in your team, Maureen, who's a little bit more focused on the dollars and cents. I don't know what the postage was like out there, but think about, $6,000, $7,000 in postage and the kind of ripple effect it would have had for all of your team members. And I think it's very funny, although you're saying old fashioned, there was a time when we were excited to get mail from a pen pal around the world. Then there was a time, Maureen, when we didn't want to get mail because it was bills. And now when you get mail, you're like, oh, I got a mail. I actually got somebody sent me a letter, and it actually stays with you because you're so used to not getting physical mail anymore. So very thoughtful on your group's on your group's idea to put that in place. You must have got some good feedback from your frontline staff.
Absolutely. And actually from the supervisors as well, that they were like, well, this is nice. Like, I'd like to get a card like this at home. Right? it was, well received. And I think it also centered the supervisors that, gratitude's not a one-time thing, right? Everybody needs to be lifted up with that support. And whether it's from their direct management or other people on the management team, it's super important.
Yeah. Yeah. I always say, when I'm doing sessions or I'm talking about, interpersonal relationships or leadership, it's we only want two things, Maureen. We want to help and we want to be appreciated for it. Yeah. Obviously in different ways, but I think you've really hit the nail on a couple of ideas. So those of you that are joining us should be scrambling, writing these down, and maybe you're doing some of them already in your own business, but great, thoughtful ideas to engage your people. And see what she's doing here. She's engaging her team. She's obviously shaping the team to make them stronger, more resilient in these tough times. And when they see that Maureen's stepping out, they'll be willing to step out and help out, which I know, Maureen, your group's already doing a lot as it is. So that's really huge. So as we get into it, almost like we're already at 1:30. I could talk to you for another 2 hours, but let's keep on point so we can let everyone get back with the rest of the day. So now that you've given us some ideas and some insight on, what you're doing, very practical ideas. I appreciate that. What are 2 areas that you've been focusing on to help really get through these tough times? Obviously, your gratitude campaign. Is there anything else, Maureen, that you'd say, Corey, we're also looking out for this? Because there's obviously the business impact. There's the safety. there's business operations. Maureen, what are some other things on what are your sort of your big irons in the fire that you're working on right now in these crazy times?
Yeah, so communication in general. So some of the gratitude things were communication channels, but I would say increased frequency of communications, and especially
Yes.
when we have folks that aren't necessarily in the office and they're working from home. And I know probably most people on the phone today are struggling with that, but making sure that we had enhanced and consistent communication. So we put in place several communication cadences for our office. We had a lot in place to begin with, but we did modify and add some additional ones when we were not all working from the office. And those were updates, related to operations, our key performance metrics, health and safety, and appropriate donning and doffing of PPE was certainly a major focus for us during the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also made a point of ensuring that we were providing communication about the resources that were available to support our employees, both personally and professionally. So certainly on the professional side, who was available to them, who were the on-call supervisors, making sure that at all times people were very comfortable that if they needed to reach out and they had complexities as it related to their job, they knew exactly who to get a hold of when. And then on the personal side too, and in addition to EAP benefits, some of the online mental health tools and other tools that are available in the community related to daycare and other things for our employees. So the first thing I would just say is enhanced, consistent, repetitive communication. We all know that there's been a lot of rhetoric and maybe inaccurate information out there. So we wanted to make sure that we were giving our employees the right information for any of their questions, and that we were the source that they would come to. So yeah, I would say that would be the first one, Corey. The second one was making sure that we didn't get too busy trying to do our day job, trying to manage through COVID, and simply push forward and expect your team to do more and more, which of course, everybody's had to step up and do things differently, take on more tasks in most businesses. But, it comes back to really recognizing those contributions.
Yeah.
And, like you said, leading by example and stopping people in meetings and thanking them for the extra effort, the extra work, whatever they've done. And quite frankly, on every team, each team member will have varying degrees of emotional intelligence. So
Yes.
Reminding everybody, even if it's not their natural path, right, Corey? Like, you and I, we're all about this. Everybody's not all about this.
Yeah.
Taking the opportunity to highlight contributions, highlight exceptional behaviors, and making sure that I'm doing that with my team. And to your point, then my team is doing that with their direct reports. And I have to say, in our organization, it almost became contagious, where it was like peer to peer. We're doing shout outs saying, hey, this person really stepped up and helped me. Thank you. I appreciate it. So that was another focus that we had. And it's really been quite fantastic to see folks come together as a team in a time of crisis.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. So I'm going to come back and bring that together. So communication, I've been preaching the same thing, Maureen, when people come to me, and how do we manage? And again, it's change management, right, Maureen? It's communication, it's marketing. So I think that's right on there. So everyone, she's just echoing things that we've talked about a little bit earlier. But that last part was your mindset of balance. I like what you said there. It said, yeah, it is crazy time. We're going to have to, do more, but not focus on the work. It looks like, Maureen, whether it was intentional or it just evolved, it sounds like there's a mindset of, the work is there, but let's make sure we take care of our people, which of course is employee engagement.
Absolutely. If we don't take care of the people, the work won't get done, the clients won't get cared for.
Yeah.
And it circles back to the beginning of our conversation, right, Corey? It needs to be key in all industries. And if it's not part of your strategy, maybe start to look at that, gather those formal and informal input channels, and have a holistic listening framework so that you are apprised of, the real level of engagement and morale in your organization.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And to your credit too, I'm, regardless of your feeling of our current prime minister, kudos to him. Every day he's out there communicating and trying to keep people up to speed on where they are. And I do admire that in him, because that's good leadership. And I think you guys are modeling it in your way as well. And many of you probably are doing it as well. Communication is the key in these challenging times, but we do have to be dynamic in how we communicate. So very, very helpful. I think those are good. Everybody to make a note of that. Communication and a mindset of balance around the work is there, but let's take care of our people. And that, of course, then shapes your team, and of course, then allows you, Maureen, watch this, to when you do need feedback, you feel more comfortable. You've built trust. They know that you genuinely care about what they have to say, and they'll tell you if you're doing a good job or if you need to move in a different direction. So I think that's really powerful.
Absolutely. No, I agree.
Yeah. And I think we're down to our last question here, Maureen, before we sort of open it up. I know I've gotten a question here from Amanda that we'll get into our Q&A, but so, I always like to, say, what, when I talk to a pro like Maureen and she's giving us insight and she's giving things like, well, some of you are like, yeah, I'm with her. Or some of you are like, oh my gosh, I got to jot that down. I always want to make sure that we sort of laser focus. We've got so much on our plates that we're going through. So question is really simple, Maureen. What's the one major thing that you can share with organization as they try to adjust in this post-pandemic? And either it is a little bit of a repeat of what you've said a few times over the course of our chat, or is there something else that you think you're noticing or needs to be added? What's that one message you'd want to give to the group of leaders and organizations joining us today?
Yeah. Well, look, what our world's going to be like post-pandemic, if any of us had a crystal ball, right, we'd be billionaires. We're all going to have to adjust. And I think what I've learned through this, and certainly talking to other professionals in other industries, I think it's really starting to resonate that we have to rethink common approaches to pretty much everything we've done. Whether it's our work environment, whether it's the way we ideate with our teams, whether it's the way we collaborate, or just solution business challenges that we need to address in each of our organizations, because we all have them. I think it's just rethinking it. And I've always been one of those people who, when I get an answer of, well, we've always done it that way, I've always said, well, yeah, why? And I think for me, that's probably the biggest piece that COVID has brought to the forefront, that just because you've done it a certain way in the past doesn't mean it needs to be done that way in the future. Who would have ever thought, NBC Nightly News would be broadcasting from somebody's basement or somebody's home, or CNN would be broadcasting, right? 8 months ago, that would have seemed like a fallacy. But so I really think, to sum it up, it's start to rethink the way you're looking at your business. And while that seems very broad, make employee engagement part of it. Maybe it's not been a focus in your strategy to date, or maybe you haven't had tools or time to gather that information and to synthesize it and share it and help make decisions. But I think now, as you're rethinking everything, now's the time that you need your employees on board with you to get through these rough waters, right? So I think it's rethinking it and just bring employee engagement to the forefront if it wasn't already there. And it may be a bit of a repeat, Corey, but I think that's what we all have to be doing as we move forward.
I'm actually with you on that. I think you might, you given it a different flavor in terms of that rethinking, and you actually said, let's plant the seed, then we'll get the tree, and then the fruit, which is the feedback. But I would agree with you 100%. We got to step back for a moment. I like your comment. Even you don't have to go to 8 months. Even if it was mid-January, we would not have thought where we are where we are now. So I do like your thoughts on that, everyone. So rethink the experience, rethink your business. It's going to be interesting. We've talked about disruption, Maureen, with Uber and all that, and Amazon, but there's opportunities for a new type of disruption even within your business. And I like your comment. Don't focus maybe on the customer that's paying the bills, but focus on the employee that's trying to satisfy that customer. So I like that insight.
Great. Yeah, because if the employees feel heard, it will drive that more engaged and productive workforce. And none of us know what our businesses will look like 6 months or 3 years down the road post pandemic. But I know it's going to look a lot brighter if you have an engaged and passionate employee base. Yes,
100%. All right. So I think we've got a lot out of Maureen on this one, everyone. We do have a couple of questions though, Maureen, that very, very interesting ones. I'm gonna read them to you. I don't know if you're able to see them here, and then I'm going to get you to give your thoughts. We have one from Amanda. Hopefully, Amanda's okay. I share. Amanda said this, Maureen. She said, based on your experience, what resources and advice can you give to organizations to overcome difficult times and adapt to rapidly evolving technology in order to keep positive customer experiences? So I think it's really around technology and how do we adapt and get on board. Do you have any advice, perspective, insight for her question?
Yeah, so gosh, I think we can all relate to that, right?
Yeah.
So today my camera's not working on Zoom. We tried it earlier this week. It worked perfectly. I've done probably 20 meetings this week with video, and just the time you want it to work, it's not going to work. So technology is becoming core to everything we do. And when you talk to folks in the technology world, you know, the call center technology, meeting technology, collaboration technology has moved ahead probably 10 years in the 100 days we've been in this pandemic. Mm-hmm. So what I would say is that as it relates to your employees, start to do some training sessions. They don't have to be formal, but actually teach people how to run a conference call. That you should do introductions at the beginning of the meeting. Teach people how to turn their video on. Teach people how to mute their calls. And those are very basic, but whatever those tools and technologies are that you are utilizing within your business, whether you love them or hate them, wish they were better, or wish you didn't have to turn on the video and do your hair, train your employees on that, because not everybody has the same aptitude. I'm sure there's many of you on the phone that have rolled Teams in. We've rolled Teams in. Gosh, that was bumpy, right? You know, and then as you start to, you know, get people on board, roll out those train the trainer. You know, we've got somebody in our team who's fantastic with SharePoint and Teams. Yeah. He's not an IT guy, but guess what? He's our go-to to help people become comfortable. Because once people become comfortable, then they're going to be more engaged. They'll be more likely to be collaborative. And even if they don't have their hair and makeup done, they might turn their video on for those calls to stay connected. So I don't know if it truly answers the question, Corey. If somebody's asking for a specific technology, you know, I don't think I would be the one that you'd want to have addressed that. But I think it's engage employees in the technology you have available and making sure the training is there and that they feel comfortable with it, so that they see it as a way to do their job rather than an encumbrance or something else they need to learn.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know if that helps.
Yeah, no, I think you have it, because we're not looking for what software, but how do we get to be more comfortable with it? Maureen, my mom's like 78, 79. And, you know, I was over there back in April and I showed her how to use Zoom for her church meetings. I would have never had that conversation with her if it wasn't for COVID. Yeah. Right? And now she's good. And she's like, oh, can you leave me alone? I'm doing a Zoom call with your cousin or your aunt. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I've created a beast here.
Yep. Yeah. When grandma can FaceTime, you know it's easy, right? But it's that concept, right? Make it easy for your employees, and if they don't get it, train them on it. Like have you know, not the standard training sessions. Like set these impromptu training sessions up so people do feel comfortable.
You got it. Yeah, and we'll get there. We'll get there. So thank you. I think that's very helpful. Got one more question. I don't know if there's any other questions coming in. I'm looking at the chat. Looks pretty good. But I have another one from Carla, and Carla's asking a pretty important question here, because given what we had chatted about a little bit as we got ready for this, Maureen, around just our, you know, the challenges, of course, of racism and so forth in the States, and just, you know, and I think it's more than just that. I think it's sexism and ageism and what have all women been going through and all these things. Carla's question is this one. I don't know if you can see it. She says, as someone who identifies as part of some marginalized groups, there have been many times where I have felt that my workplace wasn't a safe place for me to provide honest employee feedback, Maureen, due to the various biases of where it's coming from. I would either experience, or sorry, she said, from the various biases, I would either experience or observe in leadership. What's your input on this, especially given what's happening right now in the social landscape? So Maureen, she's talking about culture at a social point of view, but even in companies, there's culture that sometimes won't be open. Thoughts, comments, perspective?
Yeah, well, you know, it at a high level, I think you have to, so I'm going to speak for myself. Okay. I have to work for a company that my beliefs are aligned with and my style is aligned with. I've worked for companies like ParaMed that my belief and my style are 100% aligned. And I've been in similar situations where it was predominantly male environment, etc.
Okay.
And it wasn't aligned with my beliefs or my value set. And maybe, the quote unquote term that's being used here, not a safe environment to provide feedback. And, we haven't mentioned the company that this person's from, which I'm actually glad we didn't. My thought would be, think long and hard about where you're spending 7, 8, 9, 10 hours a day. There are a lot of companies out there that their values, their morals, and the employee engagement is at the forefront of their strategy, their decision making. They have high emotional intelligence, and they are supportive of employees. And I've worked for many organizations that they seek the diversity of opinion, and they seek out the ability to have those conversations. And I can tell you the outcomes and the engagement in those sort of organizations is usually 100-fold to the myopic, old school opinions. So to sum that all up, that was not very eloquent, I would say you need to look long and hard about the organization you're working for. If you don't feel that you can share opinions and they're not embracing that and looking for a diverse set of opinions and backgrounds and decisions, you might want to search for a company that values that and ask some of those questions in interviews. I can tell you that I ask those questions in interviews. How are decisions made? How is conflict handled? How are disagreements handled? That's something that I ask when I'm making a decision to change roles, to make sure that I'm going to an organization that is aligned with my values and my beliefs. And Corey, you may, with your background, you probably actually have a much better answer than I do to that question.
Well, I'm very proud, Maureen, that you put it out there, that maybe I'm not going to be as eloquent, but maybe that isn't the right place for you, is what you're also saying to that person, right?
Yep.
Like,
and to cut to the chase, absolutely. Find a place
right. Like
if
if this person doesn't feel like they can communicate, I can only imagine, Maureen, that she feels like she's suffocating because she can't give the feedback she wants. So I'm with you. You have to sort of sit back and say, this isn't where I want to be, and I got to go elsewhere. Now, Maureen, you and I know there's a lot of other things to consider. Maybe this is, there's the economics of it. But I like your comment. I'm only going to leave it at that, because think long and hard about where you want to spend your time, and then search out where you want to be, and that'll help you, because you're not saying that she needs to change that culture. That's not her focus, and there's other companies that are already going to be aligned with the way that this young lady thinks.
and value that opinion and perspective.
Yeah.
There's nothing that makes me happier than getting diverse feedback from employees and using all of that to come up with a solution that weighs the pros and the cons and the risks and the benefits of a decision. The decision is better supported, it's stronger, and usually delivers better dividends to the organization and the clients when you do have that thought up front. If everybody's like-minded or narrow-minded, you're never going to get there.
Yeah. Group think, we call that group think.
Absolutely.
I think you're 100% right on that. And I think my last comment would be just that this actually goes back to one of your early comments when you said you talked about ego and getting out of your way. So if this group that this person's with, the leaders don't want to get out of the way, don't want to think differently, then there's no place for her to be there. That's not going to be a good place of environment. They're not going to change. And here's the irony is, Maureen, you and I are probably the same. I love feedback. I did a session about a few weeks ago, and it was 3 days. It was online, and then I got the feedback at the end of day 2, and they were like, "I thought like Corey mailed it in." And my first thought was like, okay, I was bringing my A game, but maybe they didn't connect. The next day, I made some changes, and it was just like, oh my gosh, this was amazing. I need that feedback, and I think, Maureen, what you're saying is, if this group isn't open to this person's feedback, then she needs to go someplace where they do appreciate that.
Absolutely, because that leads to your job satisfaction. That leads to the ability for growth, what you can contribute to. And you have to feel engaged and passionate with the work you do every day, because we spend more time at work than we do at home.
Exactly. Well, a little different now, but yes, definitely that's the idea.
Yeah.
All right. hopefully that helped you out, everyone. That's another conversation. I might have to have Maureen back for phase 2 at the end of her summer once she gets through her summer with her ParaMed group there in down in Windsor. But I want to just stop here. We're watching our time. We're already, oh my gosh, we're 10 to 2. I think we've covered everything. So let me go back here for a second. You've given us a lot to think about around the employee experience. Maureen, you talked about, communication, leaders getting out of the way. I jotted down some of your stuff. You might see me talk about it later. Gratitude campaign, the email campaign, going out and doing the small things. Chocolate bar and a bottle of water might not seem like a big deal, but when you give it to the person in the right time and you met them halfway, they really appreciate it. So everyone, please, jot down some of these ideas. Go to your staff and say, how else can we build on these? Because Maureen has given us a lot of ideas on how to drive employee engagement that ultimately shapes the teams, that ultimately drives your customer experience. So Maureen, thank you so much. Definitely love having you. Any final words before we let the people get on with the rest of their day?
No, thank you so much, Corey. It's been a lot of fun. I do apologize that my video didn't work today, guys. I'm not really a technology neophyte, but it appears I am today. But thank you, Corey. You're always so much fun to chat with. Your energy's amazing. So thank you, and thanks for everybody who joined the webinar.
No problem at all. My pleasure at all. And I think that camera might have been on our side, but that's okay. I'm going to blame it on Jenna because she's not here right now. So that's good. Anyways, everyone, please.
Back on that.
Yeah. All right. Maureen, you and I are talking. Obviously, Maureen's been pushing for me to come work with her group later in the fall because she knows that there's other pieces that she wants to provide for her group. So if you want more information about what we do, if this is your first time with us, please reach out to us. Once again, thank you for giving us your, Thursday afternoon. And be safe, everyone. Have a great summer. Come back to CSPN for other spotlight interviews. Check out our newsletters, but otherwise, be safe. Take care of yourself. Thank you, everyone. Have a good one.
Corey.
Take care, Maureen. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.